All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody coming out in this ugly weather, even though we had to postpone it from uglier weather last week. I'm Harry Carver, and I'm chair or chief coordinator of the coordinators. We have a sort of interesting organization of how Together Frankfort's organized. We don't have a board of directors. We have a group of coordinators that changes every couple of years. And for those of you that don't know, Together Frankfort was organized about in 2017, I guess, by folks that were concerned about the state of elections and how we needed to engage people more to have make sure that everybody's registered and people understand what's going on and have a good grasp of the issues. And to that end, over time, they've sponsored various community events and informational meetings to help help folks to understand things that are going on around them. We had a lot of discussions last year, like how do we do a better job of this? How do we help, I don't say educate folks, but educate folks about their own community, and basically decided that we would call it a Civics 101, a whole series of informational forums about things that are important to us here locally, about how our local government works, pieces of our local government work. And tonight, we're excited to kick it off with a very timely thing and talking about the Frankfort Plant Board, our municipal utility. Before I would get any further, I was talking about elections and voting and stuff, and I've been told to remind folks that if you have a friend or family member that is going to be 18 by the November election, they can register to vote now and vote in the primary. So don't forget that. That's pretty important. So, and we will be around at every community event, right, Mary Lynn? Registering people to vote between now and the election. So anyway, tonight, as I said, kicks off a series of these forums, and I think somebody was passing out a little flyer that lists all the rest of them for the that we have planned for the first half of the year. And I hope you all will take advantage of these as they come along, and if you have ideas for future ones, we'd love to hear about it. So tonight, as I said, we're going to start off talking about the plant board, and our group of panelists here this evening. What we're going to do is I'll introduce each one of them, tell you, sort of what they're going to talk about, and they can take off from there. Our first is Libby Marshall, and Libby having served as the executive director of the Municipal Electric Power Association, she has some idea of how these things work, and is going to talk a little bit about other municipal utilities across the state and how we fit in with all of them and how the organization works. Libby and her husband Prentice live downtown in Frankfort. Actually, they're my neighbors. And she's active in a number of community organizations. John Cubine, who is the current chair of the Frankfort Plant Board, is going to talk about the plant board, the organization of our plant board, of our municipal utility. He has he's retired from a long career in state government and has been in Frankfort for many, many years and serves on the boards of the United Way and Thornhill. And as I understand, he is also an optimist as a club, and perhaps he is an optimist as well. And then we have Kathy Lindsay, who you probably will see on TV and about town. She's the director of marketing and communications here at the plant board and has been here for 7 years, having previously worked in state government for the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet, as well as press secretary for the previous Governor Beshear. She grew up here in Frankfort, and where, of course, she still lives with her husband and daughter. So, and Kathy is going to talk about the things that the plant board does and what they do here for the community. So I'm going to let Libby start, and then we'll go to John and Kathy. But what I figure, too, is we'll kind of play it by ear what folks want to do. If you've got questions or anything, just kind of raise your hand.
Can I just go ahead and say, just to tell people that we do have, Cable 10 is here tonight. You can't see them. We have cameras here and here, and our control room is in the back. So just know that we are recording this, and this will be on Cable 10, and it'll be on Cable 10's YouTube channel. That you can access anytime. You can share the link with friends and neighbors. So just know you're on TV, too.
You're on TV. So don't say anything. You might get bleeped. Okay. Libby, you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Harry. And thank you all for coming out tonight, this foggy, rainy night. I so appreciate that you're interested in this really important subject. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Good. Like most of you, I took my Frankfort plant board service for granted. I was a happy customer, had even seen some heroic service from the plant board staff. A terrible storm came through Franklin County a number of years ago, and a large tree toppled in front of my house and took out all of my utilities. And in the tail end of that storm and the rain, the Frankfort plant board crew was getting my utilities up and running. I was very impressed, especially when they said they would stay and get my television service going. And I said, you know, guys, I think I can get through the weekend. But I didn't really have a context and a broader perspective for what it meant to be in a city that had a municipally owned electric company and electric utility, until I started working with the Municipal Electric Power Association of Kentucky, and I became familiar with the 27 municipal cities that municipally electric owned cities across Kentucky and many cities across the nation. And I came to believe that we were in a pretty elite group of cities. We were in a group of cities as large as Los Angeles, Seattle, Nashville, Memphis, Long Island, New York, all of us having the privilege, I believe, of owning these vital utilities and governing ourselves on behalf of our communities. So I learned that we have other types of utilities as well. The investor-owned utilities, often called IOUs. This is the corporate side, the for-profit for shareholder side of the utility industry. The rural electric cooperatives that were formed under the Roosevelt administration to bring electricity to rural America. There are 26 of those in Kentucky. What distinguishes us from those principally is how we're governed. The IOUs and the RECCs are regulated by the Public Service Commission. We, of course, are governed by a board of citizens who are ratepayers. And we as citizens are supposed to be looking over their shoulders as well if we're being responsible citizens in our community. What I learned about these 27 cities in Kentucky is that while they're very small, they are, they're the second-class cities of Kentucky and smaller. Louisville and Lexington are not municipally owned electric power cities. The cities are exemplified by Bowling Green, Paducah, Owensboro, Bardstown, Corbin, even Little Benham, way up in the mountains. And they are geographically divided pretty much along the lines of where they get their energy. In the West, most of those utilities get their energy from TVA. In the East, primarily from investor-owned utilities, particularly AEP, American Electric Power. In the central part of Kentucky, there was a group of cities that worked very cooperatively over many years and negotiated their contracts together with Kentucky Utilities. A number of years ago, Kentucky Utilities was purchased by a German company, and we kind of lost that partnership of a Kentucky-based utility and those municipal power cities that they served. And the process began to kind of deteriorate over a number of years. And so those cities eventually, as you may recall, formed together to have energy purchased and transmitted on behalf of those cities through the Kentucky Municipal Energy Agency. And that's a pretty big deal. That's a sophisticated operation. It's one that those cities went into kind of very reluctantly. But the situation with KU had just become intolerable to them in terms of the prices that they were being able to provide to their cities and customers, and it just seemed to be that was the only way to go. What's really interesting, and I learned this being part of this kind of national perspective, that while we're quite small in Kentucky, we have a rather high reputation because the Kentucky utilities, public power cities, have been very innovative in technology. And this is important for the conversations that we're into today. In the 1950s, Frankfort Plant Board offered television services to the river valley that wasn't being able to receive adequate reception. And so we were able to get really good television reception here in Frankfort. And then, interestingly enough, in the 1980s, Glasgow Plant Board revolutionized the delivery of services, not just for Kentucky, but for the nation, by becoming the first provider of internet services to their community. And the story is kind of interesting. Billy Ray, the superintendent of Glasgow, was looking at broadband as a way to communicate and increase efficiency within the Glasgow Plant Board system. But he made contact with an individual, Venton Craft, whom some of you may know, apparently called the father of the internet, who was interested in this whole use of cable to deliver internet services. And he partnered with the Glasgow Plant Board to deliver internet services across their cable after finding out if there was interest, of course, in the community for this service. And indeed there was. And Glasgow began to offer internet services 40 times faster than the national average. So what I take away from this, and of course we have that service as well here in Frankfort now, but it has gone nationwide. What I take away from this is the assurance that even though we're a small city, in the 1950s, the Frankfort Plant Board was there to bring us television technology, and in the 1980s and 90s, internet technology. And I feel like because of the progressive viewpoint of the Frankfort Plant Board in staying up with technology, that we have some security that whatever that technology is that rolls out in the future, the Frankfort Plant Board will be there to provide for us. So I don't want to sound like I've never had a complaint or a disagreement with what I've seen the plant board do, but I think overall we're in a very fortunate position to have this privilege of owning these vital utilities here in our community.
Does anybody have any questions of Libby right now? John, go ahead.
Okay. First, thank you all for inviting us tonight. And you met Kathy, and Gary Zing is here. He's the general manager of the plant board. My job, I think, is to just go over some organizational kind of structural issues. Plant board has been here about 80 years. We've got about 200 employees. We have revenues in excess of $100 million a year. We basically have 3 lines of business. We do water, we do electric, and on electric, we're not a generator. We don't produce the electricity. We transmit it, we deliver it, but we purchase electric from other places. Once Ashwood, which is a facility in western Kentucky, comes online later this year, we should be about 20% renewable. With that solar, plus with some hydro we have. On the water, obviously, we withdraw it from the Kentucky River. We have, and you hear a lot, and I thought this might be a good time to address it, we have capacity of about 17, 18 million gallons a day we can treat. We treat about 8 or 9 million. And you'll hear sometimes people say, doesn't the plant board sell wholesale? Is that costing us money? And we sell to the 3 water districts here in Franklin County. We sell to Georgetown. We sell to Midway and North Woodford. Basically, because our facilities are already built, the incremental cost when we sell wholesale is basically in the chemical cost. Other than that, the fixed cost is already covered. So the more wholesale we sell, the net impact is it actually keeps customers in Frankfort's rates lower because we're getting the revenue that pays for the operation, but we're selling wholesale. We don't actually service the water in those districts, whether it's Farmdale, whatever. They do their own distribution, maintenance of their systems, but we sell wholesale to them. Telecom obviously is internet, cable, home security, phones, landlines is the things we do in telecom. As Libby mentioned, we started out in, quote, telecom cable years ago, just when the idea was to get the broadcast channels down into the valley because people couldn't get reception. When I first moved here from Louisville in about mid-1970s, I thought, why do you need cable? Well, then you found out, because if you didn't have cable, you weren't watching any TV. So that's kind of how we got into the business. It's a 5-member board. We're appointed to 4-year terms. We make $200 a month. And John Snyder, who's on the board, equated out, he thinks this runs about 50 cents an hour. And he said not to tell anybody that because people would say, why would you do it? So, but we're nominated by the mayor. We're confirmed by the city commission. There is nothing that requires a member to be from the county. Right now, Steve Mason, who's on the board, lives in the county. About 30% of our customers are in the county. Basically, our call center is open 24/7, 365. It's right underneath where you're sitting. It's all local people. And for a period of time, we used to contract out with another firm to do it remotely. And I remember calling in one night, and Anne Marie, you were here, you all switched it back because people would call. And I remember calling one night, and the people were in St. Louis, and I live in Indian Hills, and I said, is the power out in Indian Hills? And the person said, and what city is that? And you're like, oh, this could be a problem. But the call center are all local people. They're here all the time. They answer the phones. That's who's handling the dispatch. Basically, we bank locally. We try to purchase locally, whether it's workers' boots or anything else. Everything we can buy locally, we do. We basically provide, and Kathy will go more into it, about $1.2 million in services, in-kind services, to local schools, city, county government, whatever. It was back last summer, I got a call from a local official, and they were having a big soccer game over at Capitol View Park, and they needed a scoreboard hung, and they didn't have anybody to hang it. We went and hung the scoreboard. That's not really in our job description. But it's the kind of things, whether it's changing lights at the football field or whatever, we just do those things because that's what's part of being local. Basically, we do bill on behalf of the sewer department. We do not run the sewer department. Their bill is on our bill because it wouldn't be cost efficient for the city to send out their own bills because the sewer bill is based on water consumption. So we collect that money and we remit it to the city, but we don't have anything to do with actually the sewer department. Our employees are in the county retirement system, the same as city and county employees. We're self-insured for health insurance. We get an annual audit from an independent firm that's posted. We're under the open records, open meetings. We have an ethics code, an ethics board, just the same as local governments do. We operate basically under the state's model procurement code. We adopt an annual budget that's also filed with the Department of Local Government. That's a public process, spans over about 3 months. What we have, when people ask, well, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? We have what we call tariffs, which if you're familiar with state government, local government, same as administrative regulations, same way. We adopt tariffs. We have to have a public hearing. They're posted. So we can't do one deal for one person, one deal for someone else. Everybody, the same rules apply. If we want to change those rules, we have to go through a process. We can't just say, oh, we're going to make an exception for you. And a lot of people are upset with that. We had a situation last meeting, actually we'll be adopting it, I assume, in February. We had a public hearing. For years, developers have said, Frankfort Planning Board, you're hurting development by not giving us a break when we want to build a new subdivision. And we get that. The other side is, if a developer goes in to build a new subdivision and it never happens, and we lay a couple $1 million worth of water and electric and it doesn't happen, the ratepayers eat that. I mean, that's just where, it doesn't go anywhere else because we're a nonprofit. The revenue that we have from those three businesses, electric, water, telecom, is three silos. They don't subsidize each other. Water stands alone, electric stands alone, telecom. So if we lose money on a subdivision, say we lose $1 million, then we just have to spread that $1 million over everybody else. But we looked at what the developer said. We looked at all the options. We looked at what other utilities, and we basically have a proposed policy which would say when a developer comes in, they still have to post the full cost of the infrastructure. But if they meet certain benchmarks and get it done within a certain amount of time, and they get certificate of occupancies, and they're selling, and we're selling power and water, then they could get a partial amount of that back. I mean, that's what a lot of utilities do, but we didn't think we could have gone, and KU, some others, they may go in and float an entire subdivision, but we just didn't feel it was right to possibly risk a default on a subdivision or a business to our customers. The other thing is I mentioned what all telecom covers, and that the water and electric are basically a monopoly. I mean, that's the fact. Just like your gas is, although you can put other gas through a Columbia gas line and pay for that, water and electric, there's only one set of electric lines, there's only one set of water. On cable, it's wide open. There's 7 other companies that operate in Franklin County. Anybody can pick anybody they want at any time. We don't have a franchise. We don't have a right to say you can't have anybody else's. If you have us on the pole and you decide tomorrow you want a competitor, you switch. If you don't like them, then you switch next month. I mean, that's just the way it is. So the rates and everything else on telecom are not regulated in any way. It's just whatever the market will bear. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I think it's important, and I don't know if you already noticed it, but we've been installing what we call AMI. And this began, Anne Marie, when you were board chair. And that for customers, and hopefully you won't even know it's there. But basically, we don't need the meter readers anymore. We don't have to go around and manually pull up the cap on the water or try to come around the back of your house and read the meter. You can monitor your electric and your usage in real time, but what's even more important, say you're at work, power goes out, your subdivision goes out. The way it was is you came home, found out you lost everything in your freezer. We actually know if a subdivision's out now before you ever call. We can dispatch it, fix it, and hopefully you never know it's out. And some utilities, when they went to do AMI, wanted to put surcharges hard to recover it. We basically put that in because it's a better customer service. For a lot of customers, they'll be able to manage their bills easier, and it's a more efficient service for us because in real time, we know our usage, we know outages, and basically we think we can do a better job keeping the system up and running. Like I said, it's a good organization. It's local people. They take their job very serious. They have a lot of pride in their organization. A weekend, not this past weekend before, I guess, when it was close to zero, I went out and it was on Sunday morning, it was about 9:15, and our cable crews, not the big lines, the ones that work on your home, were out at 9:15 in the morning, and it was 0 degree, and people were out and they were trying to fix them. And they work hard. When storms come, Gary brings them in the night before, so we don't wait till 3 in the morning and realize power's out. If we see a storm coming, the people are there, the tree trimmers are there, and the minute it clears, we can be up and running. And it's important because, and you've probably seen before, when there's storms in other parts of the United States, we send crews. When we had that big wind event not too long ago, crews from other parts of the state came in and helped us. It's part of a mutual aid, and it just works out that way. But Gary's staff and that, Gary doesn't have to call anybody on the board or anybody else. When there's a power outage, they just dispatch and they stay till it gets done, no matter how many nights, no matter how many weekends. And I think, as a board, I can tell you that we're proud of the work they do because they believe in this community, they live here, and they're customers too. I mean, when the power's out, they're probably out, but they're here working. So that's all I've got, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I say thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, sir.
I've got 2 questions.
Sure.
Number 1, what's Gary's last name?
Zing, Z-H-E-N-G.
Just making sure that was the same Gary.
That's him.
And you mentioned the residency requirements for planning board members.
Without they're all residents of Franklin County, yes, in Frankfort.
You have to be a resident of Franklin County?
As far as I know, yes, you have to. Now, there's nothing in the statute that says a county member is a guaranteed a seat.
Yeah.
So it's usually been city people that live in the city. Steve Mason lives in the county. He was appointed, I guess, by Mayor May. And so he does live in the county. But basically, everybody who's, and Steve, you probably already know, we pretty much cover the whole county in water. Electric's kind of a mixed bag. Most of Frankfort is Frankfort Plant Board. But you go out towards Shadrick Ferry, that's Bluegrass Energy. When you go down Schinkel Lane and make a right turn on Stedman, Lakeview Park, and the Maples and all that is all KU. So the electric's kind of a mixed bag, but we're pretty much got all the water. And then, like I said, on telecom, it's 7 different providers, although we're probably, what, Gary, 70, 80% of the market on telecom? Yeah. But again, people, if and you know, what I've always said and felt is the reason we're here is we're supposed to be providing a good service at a good price. That's and like what Libby said, that's why you have local utilities. That's what's supposed to make us different. What's supposed to make us different is when a local official calls and say, can you get that scoreboard up? You don't have to go up 5 levels in a chain of command. I mean, they make 1 or 2 calls and it happens. I mean, and our people are glad to do it. I mean, they work hard. I don't know if you're familiar. This, of course, the admin building. Our main maintenance operation is down on Myrtle Avenue. And that's where all the trucks are. That's where they roll from every morning, the supply yards and everything. And it's amazing to watch that operation. I mean, when they load up and they roll out there at 7:30 in the morning, and they don't come home till it's done. I mean, they work hard. And as Gary said, we were talking one day, electric linemen never get a second chance. You make a mistake and you're dead. I mean, they're on the poles in the middle of the night, you know, in wind, in freezing rain. And they don't get second chances. They need to know what they're doing. I've seen our water guys, the one I always kid about, Alec. I mean, he's the size of a tree. He's the first one in a hole every time. I mean, you go down there and you can only see his head in the ground. And he's down there in the water. And it's amazing. I mean, they just do it. But again, they're local. I mean, this is their home. So, I mean, I probably sound like I'm proud of them, but I am. They're good. I won't say anymore.
Okay, John stole most of my thunder.
That's
but
a good one, though.
You do. And I don't mind to repeat some things again because obviously John's proud of the work that we do at the Frankfort Plant Board. I couldn't be more proud of the people that I work with. I've worked a lot of places here in Frankfort and other towns. And when I've been here 7 years, and I've never worked with a more dedicated group of people. And it's a community, and it's because we're part of this community. And it means a lot that you're here tonight, especially on a just really dreary night that we have a room full who are so interested in what's going on with our municipal utility, what the value of this utility is to our community. And so I just want to, just share a few things with you about the value that we bring to this community and that we get back from you guys. First of all, again, I do want to recognize Gary Zing. He's been here 4 years? Oh, has it been that long? Oh my gosh. Time flies.
Seems like 12, doesn't it?
Wow. And it's been great having him here. Mr. Cubine is the chair of our board, and we couldn't ask for a better chair. We have great board members, Steve Mason, John Snyder, Catherine Dutton-Mitchell, and Jason DeLombre. And I've said it before, our board is so, if you're in an organization that has a board, you want people as engaged as we have. They work hard, they come to meetings prepared, and when you're working in an organization like this that is so important to a community, you need that. And they don't get anything for it. If they have questions, they call us and ask, what does this mean? How will this affect our customers? So that they know when they come to a public meeting, they're prepared. And so, again, that's a value of having a public utility, because we do have these public meetings. You can come to any of our meetings. They're on the third Tuesday of every month at 5 o'clock right here. In addition to coming here, you can watch us. We air them live on Cable 10 and on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. If you ever want to come speak at a meeting, all you have to do is email me and tell me, and we'll get you in. You can speak to our board members. during a meeting, or if you just have a question, call me and I will make sure that you get an answer. That's part of being a public utility. Again, in comparison to what an investor-owned utility does, they're private companies. They have shareholders. They don't have public meetings. They have their private meetings and figure out their strategies on how they're going to make the most money. And it's not about their ratepayers. It's not about their customers. It's about their shareholders. And we recognize that. And everything that we do, any profit that we make, it's not a profit because we put it back into the company. We put it back into our customer. We put it back into the system, into the maintenance, into looking forward into things that we're going to be needing in the future to keep up with technology and things that we're going to be needing. And that's a huge value. We just celebrated back in the fall. We celebrated 80 years here in Frankfort. And I'm so proud of that. Again, electric, cable, water, internet, community TV. I'm so proud of that and more. What you may not know is that, again, we're about engaging with this community, serving this community. As John said, we live here. Our employees are here. We have employees downstairs. We live here. We go to church with you. We see you at the store. We're in clubs with you. If you have any questions, you know who to ask because we're right here. You can walk into this office. KU now doesn't even have offices you can go to. You have to call. They don't have local offices. So if you have any issues, we have a team of great customer service team here. You come in, if you have any issues, they'll help you figure it out. So that's one of the great things, again, about being local. John mentioned that we do our utility dollars. They stay right here in the community. Things that we buy for our employees, we buy locally. We buy boots and all the things that we need. We try to do as much as we can locally. It's about $1.2 million annually, and we do put in about $1.2 million in in-kind services as well, and that is with our city. He mentioned the sewer billing. We do free cable advertising for them. We do network infrastructure for them. Workforce labor, equipment use for some of the various projects. Again, our Cable 10 crew covers all of the government meetings. We do all of the DFI stuff, the downtown summer concerts. Those are things that just people enjoy. It's part of the community, and it's something that people enjoy. For the fiscal court and the county and the school boards, we provide about $400,000 in in-kind services a year. And that includes a dark fiber service, and that's for the schools where they have interconnections for their dark fiber so that they can communicate to each other. That's a service that a for-profit company would not provide them, and we do it for free every year. We also have community event coverage, obviously for the schools. We cover all of their high school sports. We cover graduations, we cover pageants, we cover dance recitals, we cover school plays. I speak a lot of times at the graduations. We give high school scholarships to one student from each high school. And one of the things that I say to them is that it's nice for us to be there because we know who the students are, because we've seen them play sports. We've seen all the ones that are getting the awards and the scholarships. We've seen them grow up. We've seen them come up through high school and their events and their dances and their games. So we're proud of them as well. We're just so proud of our students here, and we're glad to be a part of that. We've also partnered with the city. We do a lot of things. We have EV, electric vehicle charging stations. We have 3 in town. We provide free Wi-Fi zones downtown on Broadway, in front of the Old Capitol, and then also along Riverview Park, there along the Farmers Market. It's a free Wi-Fi zone. We have bottle fillers and water fountains in our parks. Also, those free Wi-Fi zones are in other parks. Dolly Graham, there's a park over at Bell Point, Lakeview, Juniper Hills. So you can get free Wi-Fi in those zones as well. Again, our Cable 10 crew, I can't say enough about them. We do have a live morning show Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10. We started that right before COVID, almost a year before COVID. And it was kind of like a little pet project. Let's see how this goes. We want to be talking about things that are going on in the community. And so we limped along pretty good, and we felt like we were doing well. Well, then COVID hit, and then it was like we were the source. We worked with the health department. They came in every week and gave updates on things that were happening. And so people started tuning in then, because we were doing it we were all at our homes, and we were doing it via Zoom, but doing it online. So then it really caught on. Now we don't have to call people to say, hey, do you want to come be on the show? We have a waiting list of people call things that are going on. They want to come be on the show. The mayor comes once a month. The county judge comes once a month. We had somebody here from the Historical Society yesterday talking about an event they're having in February. We have somebody coming tomorrow to talk about Frankfort Con that's happening this weekend. Any events that are happening, people come and that they want to talk about it and they share it. We have a community calendar. We partner with the library. They have so many events going on. And it's just been a great thing for this community, and obviously Together Frankfort. If y'all have anything going on, you want to come talk, be on the show, send somebody to talk about events. We promoted this event on the show, and it's just a really good outlet for people, again, to bring in community together, and that's just a service that we provide. And it's something that we enjoy doing, and it's really part of being engaged in this community, again, a benefit of a municipal utility. I'm going to stop because I know there's questions that other people might have. But again, anytime, call us, email us. We're here to answer questions, because that's what being public utility is all about. It's not something that you would get from a private corporation. And it's something that this community should be proud of. Again, just because you're here, I know that you're engaged, and it means a lot. And we appreciate your support, and we hope that, again, we know we're not perfect. We get that, but we're always working towards continuous improvement. And, I think that's something that every company does, and we do it for you, not for profits or for anything grander than to make this community better. So thank you all for coming, and we're here to answer questions.
If I could just real quick just mention one, Steve Mason just came in. And Steve's on the board, and when I talked earlier, he's the county, he's in the county, so he's on the board. And so Steve's back there somewhere. The other two things, and it's things you may have heard. I just wanted to address them very quickly. One, you'll hear the plant board's got a lot of cash. What are they doing with it? And we do. We try to carry several months worth of reserves as a utility. When COVID hit and the governor issued the executive order not to cut people off, we picked up over $2 million in bad debt in 2 months. Because people stopped paying. They lost their jobs, whatever, they couldn't pay. We eventually, over several years, got most of that back. But we took that hit. When we had that wind event, we took over $500,000 in additional cost over that weekend. Poles, supplies, paying crews from other cities. We try to manage where we have the reserves. When we fund capital projects, you may have seen, like the new substation down by the hotel downtown. That was a several-year project. When we fund a project in cash, we fund it. If we don't get it done in that fiscal year, we carry the cash over to the next year. We've got one small debt left. After that, we have no debt. We're not going to the commercial markets. We're not selling bonds. We try to manage the cash internally. We bank locally. We're under the same laws for investments that state government, local government is. We're not buying bitcoins. We're not buying hedge funds. We're under the same restrictions as everybody else in terms of investments. So the money's there, it's accounted for. We pretty much are buying CDs, things like that, but we have the cash because we've managed it. When we paid our debts off, it saved over a several-year period about $8 million in interest. And that's interest that otherwise the ratepayers would have paid. And I might just add, when Kathy mentioned that we're accessible, I was in Circle K one night, and the lady yelled at me from the other side. She said, "Why'd you cut me off?" And you're like, well, I don't really know, But that's part of being in the community. I mean, you take their name down, you ask them what happened, you get somebody to call them back. But that's part of it. I mean, you live here, they see you, they know who you are, and they want to ask you a question, and they're going to do it. But like I said, I heard this, why'd you cut me off? And you're like, I don't know. You know?
I get the nicer ones.
Yes, you get the nice. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, because you mentioned having the reserves and what happened when COVID and
Yes.
basically. So what would have happened had you not had that in reserves?
Gone to the bank and borrowed money. Because you got to make payroll. And, you know, if you look at our whole operation, the 100 million plus, electric's the biggest part. It's 50 to 60 million a year. Almost all that leaves Frankfort. Because we're buying power other places, so we're buying that power and have to pay for it. If you look at cable, if you have cable, if you look at your bill, about $12 of that every month we keep. That's to pay for the linemen, the crews, everything else. Most of that goes to ESPN, Disney, those others. If you see that you've got the broadcast channels, we pay over $2 million plus a year. Because even though ABC, NBC, and CBS are in the air and they're free, under federal law, if we take them out of the air and rebroadcast, we have to pay. So we have to negotiate that. And someone asked, it was a month or so ago, they said, well, we saw you had a rate increase. And we did, because we had to renegotiate. It wasn't for us. We renegotiated those TV contracts. And then when they want more, you have a choice. You either carry them or you drop them. What we've tried to do is always keep Louisville channels, because that's where our weather comes from. By far, the majority of our viewers watch Lexington. I mean, that's the bulk. But we try to keep the Louisville channels as that balance. And we were very close. We considered it last month, and then we pulled back because they still want to negotiate. We've got 3 Louisville channels, and some of them were tougher to negotiate with than others. So we try to weigh, you know, should we drop a channel? Is it worth saving our customers $1 a month or 50 cents a month? If we keep all the Lexington and we keep some Louisville, I mean, those are all things. And we have a cable advisory committee. They look at it. They're citizens. They review it. They're not paid anything. The ethics board's not paid anything, but they'll look at it and give us recommendations. But but because of the way we've been fortunate to manage our funds, we have the ability that if we have a short-term cash flow situation, and you know, you don't ever want to think, but just like state government has budget reserves, city does, county, you don't want to ever think there's a situation where all of a sudden you're not going to get any revenue for a month. But if we didn't, that's what, $9-10 million a month. We'd have to go to the bank and borrow it, and you'd pay whatever rate you could get the money for, and then you'd have to pay it back. So that's what we would have to done. I would have had to done. Is that right? Whatever.
It would have happened.
What would have happened? Yeah.
Did you say 100% of the electricity is purchased?
Pardon?
Did you state that 100% of the electricity is purchased?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't have any generation.
Right. I didn't know if there was a vision or a plan to enlarge the solar panel.
Yes. Well, first, 2 things. You know, we've built a solar facility back here, which is small, and we're selling subscriptions. That facility can be expanded 3 more times, size-wise. We are part of a group called the Kentucky Municipal Energy Association, and we purchase power for them. They represent a number of cities, and they're like a broker, and they purchase. Policy-wise, there are some things we looked at that they looked at that we thought Frankfort wanted to go in a different direction. So we gave notice to them that we're leaving them as an association. Now, the way that worked is when you get into energy contracts, there's no short-term ones. Because if you go to someone you want to buy power and they're wanting to build or expand a facility, they want a long-term commitment. So our last contract with KYMEA rolls off in 2029. There are several others that roll off, Duke and Power and a few others between now and then. So we're in the process. We've engaged a firm called GDS who's helping us look at what our options are to replace that KYMEA power with other power sources. And we've got 5 years to plan that. But you have to plan it. You have to be able to transmit the power here. You have to bring it in. KU controls the lines in 88 counties. So you've got to bring it in over KU lines. So we're looking at what our other options are, what renewables they have, what the options are, what the prices are. And so we've got time to plan that out, because it takes a while. Because if you sign with someone today and said, I want to start buying, 50 megawatts of power from you, they may not be able to provide it for you next year. They may say, I can start giving it to you in 2027. So you have to start planning that out. But right now, everything we purchase, the biggest one is Big Rivers. And that's a major coal facility in western Kentucky. But there's Big Rivers, there's Duke. Ashwood, when it comes on, will give us quite a bit of solar power. The city's interested in doing some things with solar. They've done some studies with NREL. So there's a lot of options out there. And what we try to do is to make sure that ratepayers aren't subsidizing each other. And we just had a rate study last June that we adopted rates. The bulk of our electric is the industrials, the monoplasts, the Topes, the Buffalo Trace. They're not the bulk in terms of numbers of customers, but in terms of power usage, they're big. So you want rates in the community, and we wrestled with this for several meetings. You want rates that encourage business to come here, to expand. You don't want them to say, I can't afford to do business in Frankfort, it's too high. But at the same time, a retiree in Crestwood doesn't need to be paying the electric bills for a big industrial. So you've got to do that balance, and we try to do it. It's not perfect. We used a firm called 1898, which is actually one of the largest engineering firms in the United States, and they went through all the rates. They went through other utilities are doing their rates, and we tried to strike a balance of having a good rate to compete, whether it's with Bardstown or Shelbyville or Lexington or anybody else for business, and still protect our residential, because you can't just shift that cost onto them. So that's but we set the rates, and we went through a process, and we had several public hearings, and we posted them, and we went through how we set the rates up for not only residential and big industrials, but for government, schools, and everybody else. Because again, schools and city government, there are ratepayers, but they also are using tax dollars to pay their bills. So we don't want to hit them and then them turn around and say, now we got to have a tax increase because the plant board raised our rate. I mean, so you need to balance all that out. And we do the best we can to get it right, but it's at some point it's a judgment call.
Thank you.
Can you discuss Senator Williams' proposal and what your position on it is, please?
Well, I mean, generally, we have not seen the final bill. He began talking about it in June of last year. He's come and spoke before our board twice, and he's also talked to the city commission, the fiscal court. His bill does a lot of things, but again, the bill has not been formally introduced. It's still in draft, and that's all we've seen. And when he was here last time, he indicated that he was making changes to the bill. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to be in the final bill, but it has provisions in there, for example, that the plant board ought to pay property tax. And we could. I mean, our property, we're tax exempt, so we don't pay property tax on this building, on our facilities, on our trucks, or anything else. We could. It'd just be passed on to the ratepayers. I mean, it's like any other fee that'd be on your bill. I mean, it's doable. We've not paid it. We do like Kathy said, we do the in-kind services that we can do for the community. But there's that provision. There's a provision that the telecom, he's made the pitch, and I'm not trying to speak for him, but that the telecom is worth a lot of money in the market. And of course, telecom's got some debts, some costs that are built in that would have to be satisfied. We don't know what it's worth on the open market. Our fear is that if telecom were sold, whoever bought it would need to recover that cost, and that would be passed on to the ratepayers. Our feeling is, and over time, the one-time surge of money could do some good things, I'm sure, but we feel it's not advantageous to the ratepayers, and we've tried to get that message out. What's some of the other provisions?
We just feel like the legislation itself is not something that's necessary, because the city owns us and has the ability, if they want to sell us, if there's a problem with the way we're managed, with our rates, or with the service that we provide, the city has the ability to sell us, and that includes your voice.
Because right now, under the current law, they could vote, but they'd have to put it on the ballot, and the citizens would have to vote.
Currently has to go on the ballot. The city wants to sell the plant board, it has to go on the ballot. The citizens have to vote whether that's something they support or not. Our fear is that if legislation is changed, that process would be changed, and that your voice would be taken out of that, and that decision could be made without putting it on the ballot, where you would have a say. And so again, there's already a process in place, so just that legislation we think it's unnecessary. that what we had seen in draft. We don't know what it's going to be now, but our fear is that would happen if we are the draft that we saw. If it came to pass, and we fear that it would force the sale of telecom, either a transfer to the city, and there they would sell it for the money. That's the purpose, for the money for a civic center or a riverfront development, which is all great. We would love that, but there are other ways to get that money without on the backs of our customers. And then we just fear how it then would affect the rest of the plant board, because that's one of our lines of business, but we have two other lines of business and customers that would be affected by that. You can't sell off 1/3 of a business and it not affect the other 2/3. So, we're talking about, an increase in rates, possible increase in rates, a decrease in services, and a loss of local jobs. And those are the three main things, again, that we would like to avoid.
I'd like to chime in here, please, if I may. Having seen the political environment in which the municipal utilities operate, it's a very tough political environment. When you consider the political power of investor-owned utilities, of the telecommunications industry like AT&T, if you want to see power in the legislature, that's where you'll find it. And I think it's extremely important that we understand this as people who value our municipally owned utility. And I think it's incumbent on John and Kathy and the staff of the Frankfort Plant Board to keep us informed all along, to make us appreciate what we have here, so that when we see a political challenge like this, we're not making up ground in information and understanding. I would like to see regular articles from the plant board about what they're doing in renewable energy, the kinds of things John just described, of picking up delinquent utilities during COVID. Those are important things for us to know about, and unfortunately the State Journal can't always give us the really complete picture that we need to see. And I just think the whole business of political advocacy is something that needs to continue all the time so that we're prepared when the challenges come.
Does this proposed legislation apply to other municipal? It's strictly aimed at the plant.
There's, and pardon me, I don't cite them, there's two major statutes that local utilities are governed under. We were created 80 years ago under one statute that applies to Frankfort. Other municipals were created under another statute. So the idea is to change that statute and put us under, well, again, based on the draft, would put us under the same statute as the other utilities. A lot of utilities, you can go various places. Some of them are departments of city government. Some of them are standalone, some of them are departments, like the sewer department is here. Again, I think what our board has looked at and conveyed to the city, and the city passed a resolution supporting it, so did the fiscal court, is if the city said we want to change and we want to do it different, they can do it right now. There's no change in state law. They could vote it, they could say we're putting it on the ballot, here's what we want it to look, and you all would have a chance to vote on it. I mean, that's the way it's been, and I mean, after 80 years, I think we've kind of taken the position that it's your all's company. If you want to change it, you need to get a chance to vote on it.
Does that imply that the other statute for the other municipalities, they don't have telecoms?
Some do, some. Gary, I think some do, some don't.
Yeah, there's a 14 municipal currently have a telecom broadband service. There's a part of say right now, right, that you got.
A little louder, please.
There's so much federal dollar coming today. There's a $1.2 billion funding available for federal for Kentucky for the next 2 months for the broadband. So we are small municipal. Sunday since there's so much money floating around to build fiber, then there's a value to some big investment. That's one of the people saying that, but I'm not sure that's accurate or not, but potentially that could be one of the reasons why suddenly there's a push to sell. Not just us.
It's a common discussion in the industry right now, especially among, municipals are being targeted by larger companies because of all of this federal money that's coming in for this broadband expansion. The federal government has infused, Kentucky's going to get $1.2 billion to expand broadband. And so private companies are seeing this as their opportunity to make some money. And so they target these rural communities and these smaller utilities to buy them out so that they can, have this money and then have, get those customers, and I mean, it's a nice play on their part, I guess. But it's unfortunate for the smaller communities, and it's something, it's not just here in Frankfort. It's happening not just in Kentucky. It's happening nationwide, and we've heard it, with the trades industry people that we talk to nationwide. And that's why we've had national support for what's going on here. I think the State Journal is going to have an article this weekend about what's going on here, and it's going to talk about how we have gotten support from a lot of national organizations, broadband organizations, public broadband organizations that are watching what's going on here. We have support from other municipals across the state who don't want this to happen because they see that it sets bad precedent for municipals across the state.
And just to follow up, it's a mixed bag across the state. There are just solely water districts. There are just municipal electrics. I mean, we're unique in one sense in that we do all three. But for example, we've been selling wholesale water to Georgetown for decades. They have their own water treatment. They do their own withdrawal. But when they run short, summer and so forth, we sell to them. We sell to them. They do their own. But half of Scott County is Kentucky American, which is a for-profit, which is the same company that does Lexington. So I mean, it's all over in terms of different sources. Like I said, here in Frankfort, there's us and two other that sell electric service. I mean, so it's a mixed bag. Owensboro, I guess Gary, Owensboro looks a lot like us.
Yes.
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green have a 300.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of varies. But if you ever get a chance, this plant board's a really good gig to be on this board and make a lot of friends. You get to do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
The city's hired a lobbyist, as I read in the paper. Is that correct?
The city has a lobbyist
Yes.
for their issues.
And
yeah.
we
have
never
hired.
had before, but we fought.
For this issue, though, right?
Yes,
Yes,
we
sir.
thought this issue was because it has we wanted to make sure that the ratepayers knew what was going on so you could make decisions. So we did what we had never done before. I mean, we used to belong to the Kentucky Municipal Utilities Association. We're currently a member of the Kentucky League of Cities, which most cities belong. But we did for this session, I mean, and we had a lot of discussion about it, but we did hire a lobbyist for this session on this issue.
That's how important it is.
Yeah.
What's your,
And we took bids on it. We had proposals come in. We appointed a small committee to review the proposals, and then we made the award and hired someone.
so what's your sense of the community's sentiment towards this bill? I mean, my guess is everybody here is opposed to it, but I mean, do you have a sense of the larger community
Yeah.
pulse?
Yes, we have received a lot of support. Again, the mayor and city commission have come out in support of the plant board. The mayor wrote an op-ed opposing the legislation. He said he's spoken many times, I'm sure, with Senator Williams about about the legislation. The fiscal court drafted a letter of opposition to the legislation. We've spoken with both superintendents. They're both very supportive of the plant board. The sheriff. Appreciate the partnerships that we have with all of our local leadership here. We feel like we have the support here in Frankfort,
you know, and unfortunately, this is a bill that's going to be in front of the state legislature.
And you did stage your own. You could say whether their poll is accurate or scientific or whatever, but it was what 84%,
87.
87%.
I think 87.
That's it. I mean, saying that, to support the planning board. But again, I think it goes back to no organization, no entity is ever untouchable, or you can say they can't be changed. I think what we've simply tried to take a position saying, if the city commission says we want to make a change and let the voters vote on it, then that's what will happen. I mean, and that's all we're saying. The current law affords voters that right and that voice.
And again, just, with the legislature being in session now, we have work to do every day. We're here every day. That's why it's important for us to hire somebody to be up in the legislature every day, to know what's going on. They've made so many changes lately. They don't have to pre-file bills. They can talk about things in closed caucus. And then, even after the bill filing deadline, they can still add things on as amendments and bills later. So it's really important to have someone there who is watching everything. Yeah, absolutely. And that was our goal, that could keep us informed so that we could keep you informed. Yes.
The frightening thing to me is that the General Assembly appears to do whatever they want to do. And I can see very easily them saying, well, we don't care what you think. We don't care, you're this many thousands of people. We don't really care what you think. We're going to do what we want to do, and then we're screwed. Because then we can't do anything.
Right. So we're going to remain optimistic.
That's right. It has to remain, like you said, with a vote, as long as it has to get on the ballot, and that's important. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut anyone off. But one thing that interested me is a comment that he made. Everyone in this room, this is a huge crowd, especially for this night, but again, where are your community conversations? And I appreciate Together Frankfort for doing this, but the plant board should be having regular conversations with the community, because people are concerned, and I've actually heard both sides. So, this is just a kind of a fraction of Frankfort right now, and people who are aware of what's happening, but the majority of the community is not aware, and that's a scary thing, because when they're not aware, things like this slide by, and the next thing you know, you have a law, and only in July, when it becomes real, do people sit and say, wait, what happened? And that's too late. So, my question is, are you all hosting regular conversations just with the community at large to say, this is what's going on, this is what we're facing, what are your concerns, what are your views, even if you had it on your show?
Well, we've done Frankfort Chamber, we're doing the DIG group.
Yeah, we're going to groups. For our thing, a bill has not been filed. And so it's really hard to talk about something that's maybe not what it is. And that's strategy, probably, maybe. So.
And I think the message of local control, because that's the big buzzword for certain people to vote. And I think that's important. That's what's at stake here.
Yeah. So our goal so far has been to, again, make people aware of the issue just by, we have set up a website. It's iwantmyfpb.com. All of the information is there. There's a petition there that you can sign, and it tells about the issue itself. There's op-eds on there, from Mr. Cubine, from the mayor. There's letters of support that we have posted, letters to the editor. People have sent in to the State Journal. So that's kind of been that website has been kind of our clearinghouse of information as of so far what we know. Yeah, you want to go next? You stood up.
You're saying what I was at.
Okay.
As with anything with elected officials, the most important thing is that you contact your elected official, that you write them, that you call the office, and then all of Frankfort needs to do this, because that is the way that the legislator, only way that you can have an influence over your legislative body is to actually take the initiative to contact them about whatever it is. But for Frankfurt, this is the
Back-
top issue right now.
Back before Christmas, we sent an email directly to our customers, and these are the people who are going to be affected. We sent an email directly to our customers that laid out the issue, and again directed them to our website. But and it said, please contact the mayor and city commission, because at that point we felt like we hadn't gotten any support from anyone, so we wanted the mayor and city commission to know there's support in this community to keep FPB intact. And from that, we got over 800 people that emailed the mayor and city commissioner, and we felt like that was a good, and that happened quick. So we felt like that was a good taking of the temperature of where people are. Now we're on, we've updated the website. Besides, we feel like then the mayor and city commission, they did their part. They said, okay. And then so from that, now we've moved on to the petition. The petition is something, again, that we'll be sharing with the General Assembly. And we'd love every signature counts, because it shows that this is a community that advocates for itself. If we don't have representation otherwise, we can advocate for ourselves, and that's what we're trying to do. Sir.
My name is William Averill, and I was one of the 800 recipients who got your letter of alarm, I would call it, and I turned over on a dime at the time. The same evening, I wrote each one of like 799 other people apparently did, because I was scared and concerned and could not explain what in the world is going on with the legislature decreeing to the city of Frankfort and the Frankfort Plant Board, which has one of the most successful programs. As I could tell, I've been with the Division of Water for 40 years. I've seen most of the utilities and most of the different kinds of sewer departments over the career I've had. And I must say, I come back home to Frankfort very proud that we have our own good organization that can respond to emergency and provide at the lowest cost as possible. Mr. Cuban, I wrote you once or twice, and I thank you for your response.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very encouraged about that. After the hearing back from 2 or 3 of the commissioners who were grateful for my support, and others' support too, the Sunday in the State Journal, thereafter, it seemed that the city and the State Journal had gotten so many communications and responses that they decided, and I agree this was a good way of handling it, to have the mayor put his response back to it, and to provide everyone the assurance that we will stand by the plant board. We're not for sale. We're not going to let some foreign, some strange, I now better understand the nature of this, that the private companies are seeing the financial opportunity for this possibility of not having publicly supported utilities. Well, I did that as the other 799 people did. And I want to also say that I wrote a letter to the editor which sort of summarized and had some questions for the community at large that I thought summarized exactly what the issues are in a bulleted, summarized form. And I don't know whether this was a week or a month ago now, because this has been going on. I've held on to this letter I have. I would like to ask if you seem to be the person, could help me get this to the right person at the State Journal and see my letter. I've got it right here in my internet.
Sure, yes.
And it's a short letter. The letter I sent to the city was rather detailed and long, because I went back and I tried to recapture a little bit of the history and get a handle on what I thought the issues were, and it turned out to be 5 or 6 pages. However, there was a lot going on. For example, the timeline that was in attachment to this internet alarm. I read that, and it gave me the history back in the early days of World War II, where the Pittsburgh Power and Light Company was the provider, and the city of Frankfort decided, and I assumed part of this was the espionage that was going on in the country, where foreign saboteurs were taking over and blowing up places or threatening to the city as being the capital city, that Frankfurt saw the wisdom of having its internal security for its water and sewer, and that other cities nationally were doing the same, not wanting to be dependent upon a power company far away. And that was one of the questions in my list of 9 questions I have here. But I think after the city met and gave a pretty resounding no, we do not want to let our good plant board go, that it seemed like things were going to be resolved. And now this meeting that we're having tonight, and now finding out that there is no bill in draft form, or it's sort of creeping into that stage during the legislative session, that we still need, and we as a community, I say is we, plant board mostly being the proactive force in all of this, want to have a chance to keep this cause, this movement going along. So I'm all in favor of the plant board and the State Journal and its citizens continuing to convey concerns to their local officials, their legislators, just coming out in mass in meetings like this to do it. And I have this letter that I still think is current enough. It needs to be updated a little bit.
Okay.
But if you could help me with that,
Absolutely.
I would appreciate it.
Absolutely, yes.
And thank you all for hearing me talk on.
No, I appreciate your email and your multiple emails, and then the letter to the editor. We did. We did. That is another thing that we did do for some that we know that that sent emails to the mayor and city commissioners. If they opted not to, we provided some language. If they opted to use their own language and had something, we were able to see that, and then we have gotten back with those people and suggested this would be a great letter to the editor. So, we've done things like that too. There's somebody behind you.
Okay, I'm aware that there's not an actual draft of the bill.
Yes.
Okay. I heard Senator Williams talk when he was talking in front of the city commission.
Yes.
And if I grasped what he was saying, what I was understanding was that what his legislation was going to make happen was that the telecom part of the plant board business was going to have to be assessed of value. And then the city commission could, they would not be required to sell it to the highest, they could sell it, correct? That was the draft, right? That was the
There were
gist
two-
of what he
Yeah,
said.
2 options, and one of them was to sell.
One of them was to sell.
Yes.
Okay, so it strikes me that we cannot trust our Republican-dominated legislators who have our best interests at heart. Therefore, it strikes me that it is essential that we look at the people who are running for the seats on our city commission and make them each go firmly on record on what they will do in relation to the plant board, because if Senator Williams gets his way and that provision is still there, then it's gonna be up to the city commission to say yea or nay on whether or not they're gonna sell. And so it seems to me like the political spot that is truly within our power is the city commission. And we have like 9 people running for city commission, and we need to know what all 9 of them say about how they're gonna handle the plant board if Senator Williams' ideas pass. That's just all I want to say.
Okay, no, great. Great point. Okay. Thank you. Mary Lynn, did you have a question, Mary Lynn? Oh, I thought you did, sorry.
I'd like to thank Together Frankfort for bringing us here today.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think the Civics 101 is an excellent topic because I'm not sure it's even taught in the schools anymore as it was when I went, but I have a granddaughter that graduated from Bryan Station last year. She had to pass the citizenship test to graduate. I think if we all took the citizenship test, there'd be some things we probably would remember the right answers to. So I think empowering us with the opportunity to understand civics and how the system works is really, really important. And I thank Together Frankfort for bringing us together and just pointing that out.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Really, thank you. Sir?
This is a political question. So during the city commission, one of the things that our good senator indicated, I want to know if they he indicated this to you in your meetings with them, he seemed to indicate that he wouldn't be supportive of funding or requests for help from Frankfurt if, we weren't agreeable to get this passed. So I was wondering, did you hear the same conversation from him to the city commission?
It's probably,
The city commission.
I think, I think, that's a matter of public record. From our perspective, we're just taking from the plan board, trying to make the citizens aware of the impact that would have, but the rest of the discussion is probably inappropriate for us as a body, as an entity, to express anything on, because that's, I just wanted to know if that was just off the cuff or if he had said that to other people.
Oh, sir?
Jill, did you have some?
Oh.
I just want to make a couple quick observations, real quick. I'm very involved with the women's shelter down on 3rd and Murray, and we started out as a very small project, and we've gone bigger and bigger. And the plant board has been a huge partner with us because we've gotten into a lot of security stuff. And what are we going to do about it? And I really appreciate the way your staff has worked with us throughout the years. It's been really important to us. I would say this to the people of this community. I know there's been some question about you all hiring lobbyists. This community has never represented itself well at that capital. Every large community in this state, Louisville, Lexington, I'm sure Bowling Green, Paducah, Owensboro, I know that Covington is there. They're all over there advocating for what they need for their communities, and we have not done that well. But that was one of the things that I talked to Lane about very early. I think even after this issue is over, you all need to have somebody in that capital, because we cannot trust anybody down there to look out for our best interests. And this community needs to have a voice held at that capital. We have it now, and we need to keep it. I know it's an expense, but it's well worth the effort. We need to have a presence at that capital. We need to speak about what we want, what is important to this community. Now, you know, they have gerrymandered us into God knows what, with the congressional districts, with the state senate district. They've cut us out. They don't want to spend a penny on us. And this is just another little gimmick. You know, the whole business about, oh, well, you can sell the cable, you know, they'll give you millions of dollars, and then you can do all the things you really want to do. But they don't want to spend a penny in this town. Let's face it. That's the reality here, folks. So we need to speak up for ourselves. We need to be up there all the time. And we don't need to worry about him making those idle threats about, well, we're not going to support anything we want in this community, because they're not going to support anything we want in this community anyway. So don't worry about that.
Well, I will say this. We took it very, very seriously, the whole concept of spending your money to hire a lobbyist.
Sure.
And I don't know if but you can go to the ORC website and you see a list of lobbyists, and then you can see a list of employers of lobbyists. And we looked at those lists and looked at all the utilities and all the cities and all the nonprofits and all the other entities who have legislative agents. Right. And then we basically had the discussion, because Kathy Lindsay, who's incredible as you all know, is one person. She can't be up there every day and do her job here and her job at night that she's covering everything else in town. And we said, is it fair for us not to not be represented and to not let the community know what's going on? And do we just say after the fact, well, we thought it might be a problem, but we didn't really want to bother y'all? I mean, that's why we did it. But I just want to tell you, it was not a decision taken lightly. And to spend the money, and we looked at it and we looked at it and just felt, and we, like I said, we put out bids and we had proposals come in, we evaluated them and said, we have a responsibility, we felt, to let the community know what was going on, and then you all can make a decision where you're at on the issue. But we felt like we had to get the information, and that's how we did it. But it was not something we just said, oh, we're just going to go hire somebody. It was, but Kathy important. Can only,
yeah,
she can't be everywhere all day, every day.
And then
anybody who spent any time up there knows that a lot of what is decided up there is based on long-term relationships that you build with the legislators. So just going up there one session doesn't mean anything.
So
You have to continue to be up there to answer their questions, to be involved, to be a face that they recognize. It's really important.
Just an FYI, and it's not our fight, but in that vein, this week our Senator Williams has also dropped a bill that would outlaw public agencies to hire lobbyists. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Community members went up to the Capitol to represent our interest in the public works, and
it's better to go. For 8 years, I attended calls. So when they say call and write, I took them. I was the constituent services analyst. I got your calls. I got your letters.
You did the green slips?
All of them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So that's great, but you need to go to their office. And during session. So now, this is when you go. All this time, camp out. Go and sit there, because it's that in person that actually gives that pressure and that makes a difference. Your calls are falling on deaf ears. Not that my ears were deaf, because I called you back. I called every one of you back and tried to address the concerns and the issues, but the point is, they rarely even see those. They get bumped to constituent services or other departments. So it's imperative that you actually, like you were saying back there, you have to show up. You know,
So my question is, when do we
now,
show up?
go tomorrow.
But how do you show up?
May I make a suggestion to you? Is since Frankfort Plant Board has a lobbyist, maybe the lobbyist ought to guide those kinds of decisions, because you can really mess up the game plan of the lobbyist if you're not coordinating with that individual.
So who's the lobbyist and how do we contact that person?
We have engaged with Ellen Williams and Stephanie Stumbo, and if you just want to reach out to me, I can coordinate something. We have daily contact with them, and they give updates on things that are happening, and then we give updates on things like this that are happening and try to coordinate stuff.
And remember, they're not just up at the Capitol, they're sleeping in your neighborhoods. They're here.
Yeah. Mary Lynn. Yeah.
I really think it's important that there be some being up there and watching, but I still believe making a phone call, which is so easy, and it goes on a green sheet to a Senator Williams, and if you get enough of those, a legislator has to stop and think. And so, even though I think it's wonderful that some of you all will try to go up there and be there, but if you can't be there, please just call the toll-free line, because I still believe it makes a difference.
Yeah. Okay, Kathy's got a couple.
That's just about FPB stuff. Since I have a crowd and an audience, I have two things I want to share. Just real quick, just some information about FPB and about your service. We are conducting a water service line inventory. This is something that all of our customers need to know about. We're asking customers to assist us with identifying their service line material, something the EPA has asked us to do. We've started mailing postcards that explain how to do it, and that FPB can assist you. And information is on our website. Again, it's EPA regulations. We must have the inventory completed by October of this year. That information is on our website. It's fpb.cc. There's a link on our website. You just go to it. It takes 30 seconds to fill out. But we basically just need to know that you don't have lead lines.
And what this is the EPA.
Website, can you say, I can't do this myself?
Yeah. At that point, we will come help you.
Yeah.
If you can't do it, just let us know.
And why that's so important is,
For me, I just go down in my basement. I took a picture. I submitted it and told them what it was, and it was easy. Some people have to crawl and do all that. I wouldn't do that either. So just call us.
And what the survey is the EPA issued a thing that they want to know to make sure people don't have lead pipes. From everything we know, from talking to plumbers, we don't think if there's any, it's very few, but we don't think there's any lead pipes in Frankfort on service lines. And what we're looking at is the line that's coming in your house. But we're trying to survey it all because mainly it's probably going to be copper or flex. And the reason we're trying to do the inventory is we don't know that someday, 2 years from now or 3 years from now, the EPA won't say, well, now we want to know how many flex lines are out there. So we're trying to build the inventory, and the EPA will publish the report at the end based on everybody's survey and say, based on what we've seen, this town doesn't have lead or does. We don't want the EPA to say Frankfort had incomplete data and we don't know if they have lead. We don't think we've got lead. We've talked to plumbers.
Our water department says no, but we just have to confirm
But
it.
we don't have authority to come into your home without your permission. We can't come into your home for electric or anything else without you inviting us in. We stop where the meter is. But if you need help, we'll help you. But we can't just come and knock on your door and say, we want to go down your basement and look around. We don't have that authority. We don't do that. And the other thing is, if somebody ever comes up and knocks on your door and says, I'm from the plan board, I want to come in and look, they're not from us. If you don't invite us, we're not there, because we don't do that.
And then the only other thing is we have a program called the ACP, which is the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's another federal program. It's giving folks $30 off a month on their internet if they qualify. Right now, we have a lot of people, if you have a student in any of the school systems here, that's who a lot of our participants are. They qualify for that $30 off, but it's also people who are on the Lifeline.
stuff like that. That program is getting ready to come to an end because Congress has not funded it. So they're expecting the funds may run out in April. We are working to try to get people to contact the Kentucky delegation. We're talking about Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, Jamie Comer. Tell them how important that fund is to people in our community, because it really is giving folks access to broadband who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it.
And that bill comes off, we bill for the $30 from the federal government. You don't have to bill for it. We go get the money for you. But you've got to sign up with us for us to be able to bill that for you.
What was your link to the water thing, the water line?
Uh-huh.
What was the link?
You can go to fpb.cc, and there's a slide up at the top. It says service line inventory.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no one else will see that information, but we have to collect it and
Yeah.
certify to the EPA that we conducted the survey.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was it .cc or just CC?
fpb.cc. Mm-hmm.
I just want to say one thing. As former treasurer of the plant board for 4 years, I signed a lot of checks, signed a lot of checks. One of the things that really surprised me was seeing these $300 checks to say Page's Shoe Store, or Cardinal Office Supply, or Brockman Bank. Kathy just said that's $1.2 million a year that is going to local businesses. Our local city commission talks all the time about economic development. Well, you take that money away from local businesses, it's going to have a real impact on the economy of our community. And so I think that's another area that we really need. It's one of the things that the plant board does for this community is it spends its money in the community. It isn't going to Dallas or wherever.
Thanks. I think we'll wrap it up
Okay,
now.
yeah, I'm done.
Are you done? Everybody done? I want to thank Libby and John and Kathy, and we have a little gift from Together
wow.
Frankfort for y'all. And also, I invite all of you to stay engaged. If you're not already members of Together Frankfort, you can join us. You can either talk to Patty or Linda over there, or you can even, if you are so inclined, use the QR code, which I guess I might as well get used to it. It's happening. So, anyway, thanks so much for coming out, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.